Hi there, my name is Tony Barsham. I'm the Client Director for CCEP, and I'd like to talk to you a bit about the journey that we took, which culminated in the deal that we signed in July of this year. The journey really started 3 years ago when CCEP, which was in itself the merger of three entities, a European business, a German business, and an Iberian business, um, they appointed a new CIO, Peter Brickley, whom we knew from SAB Miller. He came in and we had a very standard classic outsourcing deal for the core European workloads. The data center was actually based in the US, and he said, "Okay, IBM, we've got to modernise this. We've got to. It's too expensive. We've got to get this onto the cloud." Separately, Accenture had been in and said, "Yeah, the answers is Azure. That's what you need to do." But we went to Peter and said, "Look, why don't we take the workload and move it onto the IBM Cloud in London as a sort of landing zone? And that then gives you the flexibility of taking that workload and moving it to wherever you want to do. And by the way, we can give you cost reductions on day one of that." That went down very well. So we signed that deal at the end of 2017. And we spent a year doing that migration because it's a very, very critical workload for them. And we migrated early in 2019. I think that was seen as a very successful exercise. I think then during 2019, obviously we let that workload settle. But what CCEP started to realise is they actually had other workloads, in fact, which were in worse shape. I think legacy workloads, predominantly SAP based, that were in worse shape. So we worked with them on various sort of options for migrating those workloads to the London cloud. One of them was on AIX, which wasn't sort of particularly easy, but we looked at the P series cloud in London. Anyway, roll on to beginning of 2020. They came to us and said, "Okay, IBM, we need to negotiate an extension with you. We think now's the right time." And I think at first we sort of had a fairly sort of classical approach to the extension. Gave them some money, extended the term, but all a bit unexciting. And of course, then the pandemic hit us at the beginning of March. And I think over the next sort of 6 to 8 weeks, really two things happened. CCEP went from saying to us, "We can't talk to you, IBM," to, "Okay, IBM, we need to talk to you about doing something more strategic. But we don't think, we're not sure we want to be tied to IBM Cloud. What we want to do, what we really like is your hybrid cloud message. We really like the Red Hat, the openness. That's what we want you to do." So we sort of came back to them and said, "Okay, so in this deal, we'll extend it for 4.5 years." And, obviously we had to give them some cost reductions this year to help them through the pandemic. And that was, that was part of it. But the core part of it was we said over the next 2.5 years, to the end of 2022, we will migrate your workloads and modernize your workloads to be cloud ready. And we agreed a set of principles behind doing that. And we also have an obligation to do that. So in fact, if we don't do that, the deal can come to an end at the end of 22. If we do that, it goes forward to 24. And we also said that, we put an amount of money, several million, that they can then draw down on as a co-investment with them to execute their journey. We don't know how much it's going to be. It's probably going to be 8 or 9 million. But we said we'd co-invest with them on that journey. And they loved that. And that was the deal that they bought, really. And what they talk about is not really the extension. What they talk about is a journey to cloud that gives them a proper cloud platform, a modernized application set, which they can then, really do what they want with. They can keep it on IBM Cloud. They can move it to whatever cloud they want. They can obviously use that openness to extend and develop their business, which all companies are doing. And in fact, only yesterday, the CFO was talking about the whole digital transformation, which they saw as core of getting themselves out of the trouble of the pandemic. So it's a great deal, I think, but the core of it was the journey to cloud, which I think is very consistent with the IBM strategy. Thank you.